The hunt begins. The transport pod hit the ground with a violent shudder, throwing Dane Rivers against the metal wall. His hands found the release latch by instinct, and the hatch blew open with a hiss of alien atmosphere. He rolled out, weapon raised, except there was no weapon. Nothing but the clothes on his back and the fury burning in his chest. The jungle stretched endlessly in every direction, its trees glowing with veins of purple and blue light that pulsed like slow heartbeats. The air tasted metallic, thick with moisture and something else, something that made his combat instincts scream danger. Dane moved low through the undergrowth, eyes scanning for threats. 12 pods had fallen from the sky. 12 humans ripped from their lives and dropped here like livestock. His jaw clenched. He'd survived 3 tours in the Saharan wastes, watched good soldiers die in the sand, but he'd never felt this kind of cold calculation behind an enemy's actions. A scream split the darkness. Human, female, abruptly cut short. He ran toward the sound, footfalls silent on the spongy moss. Through the glowing foliage, he saw them. 3 figures standing over a body. They were tall, easily 8 feet, with elongated limbs and skin that shimmered like oil in the bioluminescent light. 4 arms hung from their torsos, 2 wielding curved blades that dripped something dark. 2 others relaxed as if bored. One of them laughed, a clicking, chittering sound that scraped against Dane's nerves. Subject terminated. Entertainment value, minimal. The words came through a translator, emotionless and clinical. Locate next specimen. They were hunting. Hunting humans for sport. Dane's fingers dug into the earth as rage threatened to override training. He couldn't take 3 of them unarmed. Not yet. He needed to learn to watch, to survive long enough to make these bastards pay. He crawled backward, deeper into the shadows, and nearly collided with another human crouched in the darkness. She was younger than him, maybe late 20s, with dark hair pulled into a practical braid and eyes that reflected the jungle's glow. Grease or dirt smudged her cheek, and her hands, steady hands, gripped a sharp rock like a weapon. "Don't move," she breathed, barely audible. They tracked body heat and movement. Dane froze, studying her. Not panicking. Good. They waited in silence as the hunters moved past, their elongated shadows dancing across the trees. Minutes crawled by. When the sounds of their footsteps faded, the woman released a shaky breath. "Mira Volkov," she whispered. "I'm an engineer." Was an engineer. Now I'm apparently game. Dane Rivers. Corporal. Retired. He kept his eyes. Learning to survive. The jungle breathed around them, each pulse of bioluminescent light marking another minute of survival. Dane led Mira through the undergrowth, following the distant sounds of movement. Human movement, clumsy and afraid. They found 3 others huddled beneath the massive roots of a tree that glowed like dying embers. A middle-aged man with graying hair and torn clothing looked up sharply. "More survivors. Thank God." His voice carried the measured calm of someone forcing rationality over terror. "Dr. James Oren, botanist. These are Paolo and Jennifer." Paolo, a stocky man with tattoos covering his arms, nodded grimly. Jennifer, barely out of her teens, had tear tracks cutting through the dirt on her face. "6 of us left from 12, Dane said flatly. "Maybe more scattered out there, but we heard the screams." Mira moved closer to the tree, studying the glowing bark. "This bioluminescence, it's everywhere. The whole ecosystem is reactive." She touched a nearby vine, and it pulsed brighter. "We might be able to use this." Oren's eyes lit with understanding. "Trigger responses, create diversions, or find plants that do more than glow," Mira finished. She looked at Dane, and something passed between them. A recognition of kindred spirits who solved problems instead of drowning in them. Over the next hours, they explored cautiously. Oren identified a cluster of bulbous fungi that released acidic spores when disturbed. Mira sketched crude diagrams in the dirt, explaining how they could weaponize the environment. Dane taught them how to move silently, how to read signs of passage, how to think like both predator and prey. When darkness deepened, or what passed, for darkness in this perpetually glowing world, they took turns on watch. Dane found Mira sitting apart from the others, staring at the alien sky where 3 moons hung like malevolent eyes. "You're handling this better than most soldiers would," he said quietly, settling beside her. She laughed, but it was hollow. "I'm terrified." every second. But my brother was military. He used to say fear was just data. Ignore it and you die. Let it control you and you die. Use it and maybe you survive. Her voice cracked. He died in the Mars colony's attack. Dane's hand found hers in the darkness. Her fingers were cold, trembling slightly despite her composure. Then let's make sure his sister doesn't. She looked at him, really looked, and squeezed his hand back. For a moment, the horror receded, replaced by something achingly human. Connection in the face of oblivion. The moment shattered when Paolo hissed a warning. Through the trees came the hunters, 3 of them, moving in formation. But Dane's group was ready now. Mira triggered the fungi trap. Spores exploded in a cloud of corrosive mist. One hunter shrieked, clawing at its face where flesh bubbled and peeled. Dane rushed forward with a sharpened branch, driving it into the creature's throat with all his weight. The hunter went down gurgling, and Dane grabbed one of its blades. The weapon felt alive in his hands, warm and humming with energy. The other hunters retreated, clicking urgently into their communication devices. As they disappeared into the jungle, Dane held the blade high. "They bleed," he said, "which means they die." Mira moved beside him, her eyes reflecting not the jungle's glow now, but something fiercer. "Then let's teach them what it means to hunt humans." The counteroffensive in their orbiting vessel, Kaelsor watched the monitoring screens with growing unease. The prey had killed Veshtar, a full hunter, with primitive tactics and stolen technology. Around him, other Zethrians clicked their mandibles in dismissive laughter. But Kaelsor felt something he'd never experienced in 17 hunts. Doubt. "They are merely fortunate," Commander Thexvor announced, his forearms gesturing dismissively. "Send Kaelsor's elite unit." "Erase this embarrassment." Kaelsor bowed, but his thoughts churned. Honor demanded the hunt. But what honor existed in hunting creatures that fought with such desperate brilliance? Below, the humans had transformed. 6 had become a cohesive unit, each with roles that played to their strengths. Dane led tactical operations, moving like smoke through the jungle. Mira reverse-engineered every piece of stolen technology, creating improvised explosives from energy cells and local minerals. Oren identified which plants were edible, which were poison, which could be weaponized. They'd killed 4 more hunters in 3 days. "We need to split up," Dane said during their planning session. "Hit multiple targets, make them think we're everywhere." Mira placed her hand on his arm. "That's more dangerous. Everything's dangerous." His eyes found hers, and the others suddenly found reasons to check the perimeter. Alone in the hollow of their makeshift camp, Dane cupped her face. "I need you to know." "Don't," she whispered. "Don't say goodbye speeches. Not goodbye, promise." He leaned closer, and she met him halfway. The kiss was fierce, desperate, tasting of ash and defiance. Her hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, and for a heartbeat the alien world fell away. When they parted, both breathed hard. "After," Mira said firmly. "We finish this, then we figure out what this is." Dane nodded, thumb brushing her cheek. After, they split into pairs. Dane and Paolo circled north to ambush a hunter patrol. Mira and Oren moved south to sabotage what appeared to be a supply cache. Jennifer and the 6th survivor, a man named Tom, created diversions. Dane's ambush was surgical. They'd rigged a canyon pass with Mira's explosives using vines as tripwires. When 3 elite hunters, larger, armored differently, entered, Dane waited until they were perfectly positioned. The explosion tore through the canyon. Rock rained down and 2 hunters vanished under the avalanche. The 3rd survived but was pinned. Dane approached carefully, blade ready, and found the hunter watching him with eyes that held something new. Fear. "You should not resist," the hunter rasped in broken English. "We're human," Dane replied coldly. "Resistance is what we do." Meanwhile, Mira discovered the supply cache was actually a communication relay. Her engineer's mind saw opportunity. She rerouted its signals, patched into the hunter network, and spoke into the transmitter. "Attention Zethrian vessels. This is Mira Volkov, Human Prey Designation 7. You wanted a hunt? You've got one. But now we're hunting you. Surrender, or every hunter you send down dies screaming." The message broadcast across every hunter frequency. Aboard the ship, chaos erupted. Commanders argued violently. Kaelsor watched Thexvor's mandibles quiver with rage and shame. "Impossible," Thexvor hissed. They are animals. Animals! But on the screen, Kaelsor saw the truth. 6 humans, armed with stolen weapons and burning determination, standing over the bodies of 12 elite hunters. Not animals. Warriors. And warriors, he knew, were the most dangerous prey of all. Predator becomes prey commander. Thexvor's pride would not bend. While other commanders advocated for abandoning the hunt, an unprecedented admission of failure, he ordered total deployment. Every hunter on the ship would descend. 43 Zethrian warriors against 6 humans. We will crush this rebellion, he declared. Show the galaxy that Zethrians bow to no prey. Kaelsor prepared his weapons in silence, but his heart beat with conflict. He'd reviewed the footage repeatedly. The humans fought not with superior strength or technology, but with something his people had forgotten in their centuries of easy dominance. Desperation married to ingenuity. On the surface, Dane gathered the group in their fortified position, a cave system Orin had discovered, its entrances rigged with every trap they could devise. This is it, Dane said quietly. They're coming with everything. We hold here or we die. Been dying since we landed, Paolo said with dark humor. Might as well take these bastards with us. Mira worked frantically on her final project, using the communication relay's power source to create a localized EMP. If she could trigger it at the right moment, it might disable the hunters' advanced weapons. Dane found her in the back of the cave, hands shaking as she connected crystalline circuits. He knelt beside her, placing his hands over hers. Hey, he said softly. Look at me. She turned, and her composure cracked. Tears spilled over. I'm so scared, Dane. We're going to die here. Maybe. He pulled her against his chest, feeling her heart hammer against his ribs. But I'm not scared anymore, because I found something here worth fighting for. He tilted her chin up. I found you. She kissed him then, hard and demanding, as if she could pour every unsaid word into that moment. His hands tangled in her hair, and she pressed closer, needing to feel alive before the end. When they parted, foreheads touching, Mira whispered, If we survive this? When we survive this, he corrected. When we survive. I'm never letting you go. Good. The ground trembled. Through the cave mouth, they saw the sky darken with descending craft. 43 hunters landed in formation, their armor gleaming, weapons charged. Thexvor led them personally, his massive form imposing even among Zethrians. Humans, his voice boomed through translators. Your resistance ends now. Surrender, and your deaths will be swift. Dane stepped into view, holding a captured plasma rifle. Behind him, 5 humans stood armed and defiant. You want us? Dane called back. Come take us, the hunters charged. The jungle exploded into chaos. Mira's traps triggered in sequence, explosions, spear pits, acidic spores. Hunters screamed and fell. The humans fired with stolen weapons, each shot counted, every movement calculated, but numbers told. The hunters pressed forward, unstoppable. Then Mira triggered the EMP, a pulse of electromagnetic energy washed over the battlefield. Every advanced weapon died, every targeting system went dark. The hunters froze, suddenly stripped of technological advantage. Now, Dane roared. The humans attacked with crude weapons, blades, spears, rocks. It became visceral, desperate. Paolo fell with a hunter's blade through his chest. Jennifer went down protecting Tom, but the tide shifted. Without technology, the hunt became pure struggle. And humans, Dane realized with savage clarity, had evolved for exactly this kind of fight. Kaelsor, watching from the perimeter, made his choice. He turned his weapon on his fellow hunters, cutting down 3 before they realized the betrayal. Enough, he roared in Zethrian. This is not honor! This is slaughter! Several hunters hesitated, then more. Doubt spread like poison through their ranks. Thexvor screamed in rage and charged Dane directly. They collided, alien strength against human fury, blade against blade, and across the galaxy billions watched the broadcast, seeing prey become predator, witnessing the impossible. The price of arrogance. Dane felt his ribs crack as Thexvor's lower arms grabbed him, squeezing with crushing force. The commander's mandibles clicked in triumph, his upper arms raising a blade for the killing strike. Witness, Thexvor announced to the galaxy watching through still-active cameras, the price of defiance. Mira screamed, raising a captured rifle, but it was dead weight. The EMP had taken everything. Then Dane saw it, a piece of sharpened stone, primitive as humanity's first weapons, lying in the dirt. He grabbed it with his free hand and drove it into the joint where Thexvor's lower left arm met his torso. The commander shrieked, grip loosening just enough. Dane twisted free, grabbed his fallen blade, and swung. It caught Thexvor across his primary eyes. The commander staggered back, ichor streaming down his face. "You don't understand," Dane growled, advancing. "Humans don't hunt for sport. We hunt to survive. And we've been surviving since we lived in caves." He struck again and again. "You picked the wrong species to fuck with." Thexvor fell to his knees, beaten by a creature he'd considered prey. Around them, the remaining hunters lowered their weapons. Some dropped them entirely. Kaelsor stepped forward, his forearms spread in a gesture of submission. "We yield," he said clearly in English. "By right of combat, by honor of the hunt, we yield." The jungle fell silent, except for labored breathing and the groans of the wounded. Of 43 hunters, only 19 remained standing. Of 6 humans, 4 survived: Dane, Mira, Oren, and Tom. The cost had been terrible. A new voice crackled through the remaining communication equipment. "This is UESC Valkyrie, inbound on your position." "Hold tight, people. The cavalry's here." Human warships descended through the atmosphere, responding to the distress beacon Mira had embedded in her broadcast. Marines poured out, weapons ready, faces shocked at the carnage around them. A captain approached Dane, saluting. "Sir, we—" The whole galaxy watched. "You turned a death sentence into a declaration." "We just wanted to live," Dane said tiredly. The Zethrian Empire, humiliated before a galactic audience, immediately banned sentient species hunting. The Kravesh Prime Preserve was dismantled. Kaelsor testified before the Galactic Council about the systematic cruelty of the hunts, becoming an advocate for reform. But 4 humans paid the heavier price. On Earth, 3 months later, Dane stood before graves bearing the names of Paulo, Jennifer, and 5 others who died in those first hours. Mira's hand slipped into his, their fingers intertwining with practiced ease. "They should be here," she said quietly. "Yeah." He pulled her closer, kneading her warmth against the cold weight of survivor's guilt. They'd become inseparable after returning, 2 people who'd seen hell and crawled back together. The nightmares came often, but they faced them as they'd faced everything else, together. Dr. Oren approached, leaning on a cane from his injuries. "The memorial's ready. They want you both to speak." Dane nodded. They walked to the podium where cameras waited. Not just Earth's media now. The entire galaxy watched whenever humanity spoke. Mira stepped forward first. "We didn't ask to be hunted. We didn't ask to become symbols. We just refused to die quietly." She paused. "But if our survival taught the universe anything, let it be this. Humanity will always fight. We will always adapt, and we will always protect our own." Dane took her place. The Zethrians learned what predators throughout Earth's history learned. Humans aren't the biggest, fastest, or strongest. But we're the most stubborn, creative, and vengeful species to ever evolve. Hunt us at your peril. He looked directly into the cameras, knowing his words broadcast across 1,000 worlds. To any species watching, we don't seek conflict. But if you make us prey, we will become your nightmare. Because humanity doesn't just survive. We conquer, we endure, and we never, ever forget. The cameras continued rolling as Dane turned to Mira, kissing her gently while Earth and the galaxy watched. 2 survivors, scarred but unbroken, proving that love could bloom even in the darkest hunts. Above Earth, monitoring stations tracked something new. Alien vessels giving human ships a wide berth. Trading convoys rerouting to avoid confrontation. The message had been received, written in hunter blood across an alien jungle. Never hunt humans. The price of that lesson had been paid in full.